Okay, so we have historical astrological coincidences. So what I'm calling the cosmic patterning of human evolution by the Department of Historical Synchronicity. So here's my methodological framework. The rigorous historical astrology protocol. So there's a triple verification, the ephemeris reconstruction using NASA JPL-DE 431 for dates back to about 30,000 BCE, sidereal versus tropical double check using precise INAMSA for each era, house system testing, Campanus for mundane, Placidus for personal, orb standards for historical work, conjunctions 5 degrees maximum for outer planets, 2 degrees for inner planets, major aspects 8 degrees for Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, exact hits 0 degrees to about 0.30 degrees, quantum resonance events, planetary condition scoring, essential dignity, debility with Ptolemaic weights, mutual reception considerations, combust Cassini status, speed direction, stationary retrograde equals 3 times the potency. Case studies, rigorous historical analysis. So let's talk about the assassination of Julius Caesar, which happened March 15th, 44 BCE. Event chart, Rome, sunrise, this is the approximate time. So sun was at 24 degrees Pisces, exalted but in via combusta, 15 degrees Libra through 15 degrees Scorpio. Moon at 0 degrees of Scorpio in via combusta, exact square Jupiter. Jupiter 0 degrees Aquarius, detriment, stationary direct. Saturn 9 degrees Cancer, fall. Mars 22 degrees Aries, rulership. Venus 4 degrees Aquarius, detriment. Mercury 11 degrees Pisces, I'm not sure why it says exalted, it's debilitated. Pluto, modern, so 22 degrees Aries, conjunct Mars, 0.08 degrees. Critical aspects, Mars-Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees Aries with a 0.08 degree orb. Rigorous analysis, both in Aries, Mars domicile, Pluto exalted by modern rulership, violent transformation signature, stationary Jupiter at 0 degrees Aquarius, square Moon, 0 degrees Scorpio, creates judicial overreach pattern. Saturn in Cancer, its fall at IC, mundane chart. Cancer equals Roman people, Roman state. Saturn in fall equals structure collapsing. Exact trine to Neptune, 9 degrees Pisces, modern ideological dissolution. Caesar's natal chart, which is, let's see, July 13th, 100 BCE. Sun was at 20 degrees Cancer, domicile, Moon 29 degrees Virgo, anaretic degree. Mars was at 0 degrees Libra and its detriment, square Jupiter, 0 degrees Cancer, exalted. And there's a lot of people that'll argue about what's debilitated, what's exalted, but it really just depends which astrologer you're asking and how they're looking at things. So transit Pluto, modern 22 degrees Aries, square the natal sun, 20 degrees Cancer, 2 degrees orb on his death day. Statistical probability, Mars-Pluto conjunction occurs every 2 years, but with Jupiter stationary at critical degree, 0 degrees Aquarius, equals once every 83 years. With Saturn and fall in Cancer, equals once every 29.5 years. Combined probability, once every 2,400 years. So I'm going to talk about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and I personally don't believe in Jesus Christ, but we're gonna play around and see where we end up with this, because there's so much wrong with how Jesus gets talked about astrologically speaking in his natal chart. Because the thing is, we're talking about someone that just is a mythological being, in my opinion. And I grew up going to church, and I grew up being very religious because of my family. But so let's just say he was born April 7th, 30 CE instead of, December. Most historically plausible date. Eclipse preceding the event, lunar eclipse, April 5th, 30 CE. So moon would be 14 degrees Libra, eclipse, sun is at 14 degrees Aries. Saturn is at 14 degrees Libra, exact conjunction, eclipse, moon, Pluto, modern, 14 degrees Aries, opposition. Now I have his crucifixion day chart. Jerusalem, 9 a.m. approximately. Sun is 18 degrees Aries, exalted. Moon's at 29 degrees Scorpio, anaretic degree in via combusta. Saturn's at 14 degrees Libra in 7th house, open enemies. Jupiter at 0 degrees Cancer, exalted, angular in 4th, burial. Mars 0 degrees Pisces, they're saying that's exalted. Square Jupiter 0 degrees Cancer, exact 90 degrees. Okay. Venus at 2 degrees Pisces, exalted, it absolutely is, conjunct Mars 2 degrees orb. I have to edit a lot of my writing. Pluto 14 degrees Aries, modern, conjunct Sun 4 degrees orb. And most of my writings, I mean, I'm pretty accurate, but I have a few mistakes. Astrological anomalies. Mars, Jupiter, exact square, 0 degrees, while both in exaltation. Mars in Pisces, sacrificial warrior. Jupiter in Cancer, expansion of tribe, nation. Create sacrificial expansion archetype. Saturn exactly conjunct eclipse point from 2 days prior. Saturn equals karma, law, structure. Eclipse point equals fate point. Karmic completion signature. Venus exalted conjunct Mars exalted in Pisces. Love, Venus, and sacrifice. Mars merged in sign of martyrdom, Pisces. Statistical rarity. Mars, Jupiter, exact square, 0 degrees, occurs every 6 to 7 years. But both in exaltation simultaneously equals once every 240 years. With Saturn on recent eclipse point equals add factor of 29.5 years. Combined once every 7,000 years. Let's talk about the Black Death peak from 1347 through 1351. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction cycle, a great conjunction of 1345, the pre-plague. Saturn at 29 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto, modern, 29 degrees Aquarius, exact conjunction, 0 degrees. Jupiter, 1 degree Scorpio, detriment, square conjunction, 2 degree orb. Mars at 0 degree Cancer, fall, opposite conjunction, 1 degree orb. The triple paralyzing configuration, Saturn-Pluto conjunction at anaretic degree, 29 degrees, and an Aquarian cycle, air sign, that means breath and lungs. Pluto equals death, transformation. Saturn equals limitation, structure. The Grand Cross with Mars in fall and Jupiter in detriment. Mars, 0 degrees Cancer, weaponized home and family. Jupiter, 1 degree Scorpio, expansion of death, decay. Perfect pathology signature. Now, 1347 chart for the Genoa first outbreak. Sun was at 15 degrees Libra, square Neptune, 15 degrees Cancer, modern. Moon, 0 degrees Scorpio, via combusta. Saturn at 5 degrees Pisces, exalted but immutable water sign equals spreading through water. Pluto, 29 degrees Aquarius, still within 1 degree of the conjunction. Historical pattern, every Saturn-Pluto conjunction in air signs correlates with pandemics. 1345, Black Death, Aquarius. 1914, World War I, and Spanish flu, Cancer, but Pluto in Cancer equals disease in home, nation. 2020, COVID-19, Capricorn, Earth sign equals economic structures. Now let's talk about the American Revolution, folks. July 4th, 1776, Philadelphia, 5:10 p.m. Sibley chart traditional. So, what does the Sibley chart look like? We hear a lot about this as well. So, Sun is at 13 degrees Cancer, domicile. Moon, 27 degrees Aquarius. Saturn, 14 degrees Libra, exalted, retrograde. Pluto, modern, 27 degrees Capricorn, domicile. Uranus, modern, 8 degrees Gemini, detriment. Trine Sun, 5 degrees orb. Hidden exactitude, most missed. So, part of revolution at 0 degrees Aries, Aries point. Calculated ascendant, be 17 degrees Sag, plus Uranus, 8 degree Gemini, subtracting Saturn, 14 degree Libra, equals 11 degrees Gemini. Wait, that's wrong. Let's calculate this properly. The actual calculation. Ascendant 17, 18 degrees Sagittarius equals 267, 18 degrees. Uranus, 8 degrees, Gemini, equals 68 degrees. Saturn, 14 degrees, Libra, equals 194 degrees. Formula, ascendant, and Uranus, subtracting Saturn, 267 degrees plus 68 degrees equals 335 degrees. 335 degrees subtracting 194 degrees equals 141 degrees equals 21 degrees Leo. Not 0 degrees Aries. Let me check the card of fortune instead. True hidden signature. Sun Moon midpoint at 20 degrees Capricorn conjunct Pluto, 27 degrees Capricorn, 7 degrees orb. People's will, Sun Moon merged with transformative power, Pluto in Capricorn equals creating new structures. Exact aspect most historians miss and astrologers. Mars 24 degrees Leo square Neptune 24 degrees Taurus, 0 degree orb. Mars in Leo, royal military, square Neptune and Taurus, illusions about material security, revolutionary deception against material powers. Statistical analysis, Mars-Neptune exact square occurs every 2 years, but with Sun in Cancer, national identity, exactly trine-Neptune equals once every 19 years, combined with Saturn retrograde and exaltation equals once every 360 years. Let's talk about World War II key dates. Hitler's invasion of Poland, September 1st, 1939, 4:45 a.m., Warsaw. Sun, 8 degrees Virgo, angular in 7th, open war. Moon, 29 degrees Aries, aneretic, impulsive action. Mars, 0 degrees Virgo, detriment, conjunct Sun, 8 degree orb. Saturn, 0 degrees Taurus, exalted but at 0 degree cardinal equals initiation. Pluto, 1 degree Leo, modern, square Saturn, 1 degree orb, 90 degree exact within 1 degree. Uranus, 20 degree Taurus, square Neptune, 20 degrees Leo, 0 degrees orb. The grand cardinal of initiation. So Saturn at 0 degrees Taurus, square Pluto, 1 degree Leo. Saturn exalted equals traditional power structures. Pluto in Leo equals transformative ego, will to power. Exact square equals structural violence. Uranus-Neptune exact square, 20 degrees Taurus in Leo. Uranus in Taurus equals sudden material disruption. Neptune in Leo equals ideological delusions of grandeur, mass deception about resources. Let's talk about Pearl Harbor, which happened December 7th, 1941, 7:55 a.m., Honolulu. Most astounding configuration. The Sun is at 15 degrees Sagittarius, square Neptune, 4 degrees Virgo. The Moon was at 29 degrees Scorpio, aneretic in Via Combusta. Mars at 0 degrees Pisces, exalted, square Jupiter, 0 degrees Gemini, exact 90 degrees. Saturn, 8 degrees Gemini, detriment, conjunct Jupiter, 8 degree orb. Pluto, 5 degrees Leo, modern, opposite Moon, 6 degrees orb. Exact signature. Mars at 0 degrees Pisces, square Jupiter at 0 degrees Gemini. Mars exalted in Pisces equals sneak attack through water. By the way, Mars is actually exalted in Capricorn, which I have that placement. But we can say Mars is also exalted in Pisces, in my opinion, because Pisces is literally the dissolution of the ego. It's literally, like, when you see someone that has a Mars in Pisces, just know this person is probably like, I think of the Buddhist monks, okay? They've lost their ego. They don't need that. They've slipped on it too much. Jupiter in Gemini detriment equals overexpansion of communication and transport. Exact square equals catastrophic miscalculation. Probability, Mars-Jupiter exact square at 0 degrees of science occurs at once every 84 years. Let's talk about the Apollo 11 moon landing, which occurred July 20th, 1969, 2017, UTC, Sea of Tranquility, the event chart. Let's pull that. Sun was at 28 degrees Cancer, domicile conjunct Sirius, 29 degrees Cancer. Moon was at 15 degrees Aquarius, detriment, but in a air sign equals breathable space, ? Mercury, 16 degrees Leo, domicile retrograde. Venus, 4 degrees Virgo, detriment, but in Mercury's earth sign equals precise measurement. Mars, 28 degrees Libra, detriment, but at 28 degrees equals critical degree. Jupiter, 0 degrees Libra, exalted, conjunct Mars, 2 degree orb. Saturn, 6 degrees Taurus, exalted, trine Sun, 8 degrees orb. Uranus, 0 degrees Libra, detriment, conjunct Jupiter and Mars, stellium. Neptune, 26 degrees Scorpio, fall, square Sun, 2 degrees orb. Pluto, 22 degrees Virgo, modern, trine Saturn, 4 degrees orb. So the stunning alignment most miss, let's talk about it. First, Uranus at 0 degrees Libra exactly conjunct Jupiter at 0 degrees Libra. So Uranus equals breakthrough technology, and Jupiter equals expansion. Both are at 0 degrees Libra, which equals perfect balance point initiation, once every 84 years for this exact conjunction. Sun at 28 degrees Cancer exactly conjunct Sirius at 29 degrees Cancer. So Sirius is a star of ascension in Egyptian mythology. Sun is at 28 degrees and it's completing the Cancer cycle, which is home and earth and departure from earthly home. Thirdly, there's Mercury retrograde in Leo at 16 degrees. So Mercury equals communication and technology. Retrograde equals review and a return mission. Leo equals dramatic achievement. Guaranteed return mission success. Mathematical rarity. Uranus-Jupiter conjunction at 0 degrees of any sign once every 168 years, with Sun exactly conjunct Sirius at precession factor of 72 years, combined probability once every 12,000 years. Let's talk about 9/11. Of course, it happened September 11th, 2001, 8:46 a.m., New York. The event chart, Sun is at 18 degrees Virgo, angular intent, public event. Moon's at 25 degrees Cancer, domicile but in 8th death transformation. Mercury was at 4 degrees Libra, exalted but combust Sun. Venus, 26 degrees Leo, detriment, square Neptune, 26 degrees Scorpio, 0 degree orb. Mars, 24 degrees Scorpio, domicile, square Pluto, 24 degrees Leo, 0 degree orb. Jupiter, 12 degrees Cancer, exalted, opposite Pluto, 12 degrees orb. Saturn, 9 degrees Gemini, detriment, square Neptune, 5 degrees orb. Uranus, 22 degrees Aquarius, domicile, square Saturn, 13 degree orb. Neptune, 26 degrees Scorpio, fall. Pluto, 24 degrees Leo, modern, detriment, but in fixed fire equals explosive power. We have the exact aspects of the note. Mars, 24 degrees Scorpio, square Pluto, 24 degrees Leo, 0 degrees. Mars in Scorpio equals covert transformative violence. Pluto in Leo equals dramatic power displays. Exact square equals maximum destructive potential. Venus, 26 degrees Leo, square Neptune, 26 degrees Scorpio, 0 degrees. Venus in Leo detriment equals values of pride, display distorted. Neptune in Scorpio fall equals deception about power, death, illusions about security values. Sun at 18 degrees Virgo, exactly opposite USA natal Pluto, 1776 chart. USA Pluto is at 27 degrees Capricorn, 2 degree orb from exact, national transformation triggered. Hidden mathematical pattern. So Mars Pluto exact square occurs every 2 years. Venus Neptune exact square every 1.5 years, but both exact squares simultaneously equals once every 3 years. With Mercury combust, communication attack equals add factor of 88 days per year. Combined once every 12 years, notably similar to 1989 Lockerbie bombing aspects. Now let's get into COVID-19, the 2020 pandemic, which affected all Americans and even people that aren't Americans. And I actually had COVID when I was only 14, 15 years old. And I did digital learning, and I had a disrupted education. That gets into, my Cancer in third house, and Saturn, and Black Moon Lilith, and a bunch of other crazy natal placements I have. But anyways, the 2020 pandemic, COVID-19 declaration, March 11th, 2020, exact Saturn-Pluto conjunction, January 12th, 2020, Saturn at 22 degrees Capricorn, conjunct Pluto at 22 degrees Capricorn, 0 degrees. Both square Mars, 22 degrees Aries, T-square exact within 30 degrees. Aries, 24 degrees Aries, conjunct Mars, 2 degrees Orb. The Capricorn stellium of 2020, it's Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Mercury, all in Capricorn. Capricorn equals structures, governments, boundaries. Saturn, literally curated Capricorn. Structural transformation through limitation. Mathematical rarity. Saturn Pluto conjunction every 33 to 38 years, but exact T-square with Mars at the same degree once every 500 years. With Aries discord, conjunct Mars adds 557-year cycle, combined once every 278,500 years. Pattern analysis, historical cycles. The Jupiter-Saturn cycle and civilization shifts. Great mutation into air signs, 2020. Last air sign cycle, 1226 through 1405. Middle Ages to Renaissance. Current, 2020 through 2199. Information age to who knows. Every shift correlates with communication revolutions. Uranus, Neptune, hard aspects and ideological shifts, exact squares. 1821, Romanticism versus industrialization. 1907, Modernism versus tradition. 1952 through 1956, Cold War ideologies. Pattern, every 84 years, reality paradigms clash. Venus-Mars cycles and gender relations, exact conjunctions and cardinal signs. 1853, 0 degrees Aries, women's suffrage movements begin. 1931, 0 degrees Cancer, women enter workforce and depression. 2015, 0 degrees Virgo, actually mutable, but hashtag #MeToo movement. 2017, pattern, every 80 years, relationship structures transform. And I should have marked down transgenderism as well, but I've talked about this in previous videos. Quantifying coincidence, the statistical method, the probability formula for historical events. So P event equals that calculation I came up with. That was just fucking around. Where P_I equals probability of each astrological signature occurring independently and equals number of signatures. For example, Apollo 11, P to the power of 1, Uranus-Jupiter 0 degree conjunction equals 1/168. P to the power of 2, Sun Sirius exact equals 172, counting for precession. P to the power of 3, Mercury retrograde at critical degree equals 136. Combined, be 168 multiplied by 172 multiplied by 136. 13, it'll equal about 12,000. The significance threshold. So P and lesser than 0.01. Interesting coincidence. P lesser than 0.001. A significant correlation. P lesser than 0.0001. Historical astrological signature. P lesser than 0.00001. Epoch defining celestial alignment. The greatest historical paradox, the birth of modernity. Alignment. 1543, Copernicus publishes heliocentric theory. Vesalius publishes anatomy work. May 24th, 1543, Copernicus death publication. Sun, 13 degrees Gemini, communication of ideas. Mercury, 0 degrees Cancer, domicile moon, but in Mercury's terms, stationary direct. Saturn, 28 degrees Aquarius, detriment, but in air sign equals mental structures. Pluto, modern, 0 degrees Aries, cardinal initiation. Uranus, modern, 2 degrees Scorpio, square Pluto, 2 degrees orb. The true coincidence, Uranus, 2 degrees Scorpio, exactly square Pluto, 0 degrees Aries. Uranus equals revolution, breakthroughs. Pluto equals transformation of foundations. Exact square equals violent overthrow of old paradigms. Occurred same month as heliocentric theory publication. Statistical rarity, once every 127 years for Uranus-Pluto exact square. Conclusion, the cosmic pattern language. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Celestial cycles provide the metronome. Exact aspects at critical degrees, 0, 29, 15, mark historical turning points. Planetary dignity, debility states color events but don't determine morality. The rarest alignments, p lesser than 0.00001, correlate with civilization level shifts. Final rigorous insight. When 3 or more outer planets form exact aspects from 0 degrees to about 0.30 degrees at critical degrees while in strong dignity debility states, the probability of historically significant events approaches certainty, p greater than 0.95. The cosmos writes in geometry. Humanity reads an event. The translation requires both mathematical rigor and hermeneutic wisdom. History's greatest moments aren't random explosions, but the visible crystallization of invisible celestial mathematics. To study historical astrology is to become literate in the universe's diary of human evolution. Let's see if we'll come up with something else we can give you guys as well. Well, this might get me in trouble, but fuck it. This is a assessment of alleged covert operations and suppressed technologies. Purpose and scope. This memorandum provides a structured point-by-point assessment of a set of wide-ranging claims regarding alleged government psychological operations, psyops, and suppression of technologies. Knowledge. The claims intersect geopolitics, public health, environmental science, metaphysics, and medicine. This isn't a validation of claims, but a rigorous field analysis of their structure, evidence, and counterpoints. Methodology. Analysis is based on review of open source scientific consensus, analysis of historical precedent for state deception and operational secrecy, evaluation of logistical, economic, and motivational feasibility, application of Occam's razor to alternative explanations. Point-by-point assessment. Claim 1, government weather control as a psyop weapon. And before I begin this one, I'm talking about this stuff because I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I've been living here practically my whole life. I'm almost 21 years old, and I haven't been on a plane or anything yet. And it's very, very cold here, and I've noticed for a very long time that I just believe that there's something going on with us on a hidden level. So, allegation, governments possess and deploy technology to control weather for economic or strategic advantage, masking it as natural phenomena. Assessment, feasibility, limited large-scale control remains in the realm of speculative science. Known, cloud seeding, silver iodide for limited precipitation enhancement or hail suppression is real, documented, and publicly acknowledged by several nations, China, UAE, US. Its effects are localized and modest. Scale and secrecy, the energy required to influence major weather systems, hurricanes, droughts, is planetary in scale. Concealing the infrastructure for such control is considered logistically implausible by most atmospheric scientists. Documented climate modification discussions, for example, solar radiation management, are theoretical and hotly debated in open literature, not secretly deployed. Conclusion. While limited environmental modification exists, the claim of total secret weather control as a strategic weapon lacks physical evidence and encounters profound scale and energy constraints. Weather events remain overwhelmingly driven by natural, chaotic systems. Claim 2, vaccinations as a psyop biological agent. And I've taken a lot of vaccines. I even had the COVID vaccine and I still had COVID. Allegation: vaccination programs are vectors for biological agents, population control, or tracking. Assessment: historical precedent. Historical state biological weapons programs, for example, USSR's biopreparat, did exist. The 1972 Biological Weapons Convention banned them. Covert use via mass public health campaigns is a different order of risk and exposure. Motivation and risk, the logistical complexity and extreme risk of discovery, as thousands of healthcare workers and regulators would be complicit, make this a highly unstable strategy for any state. The public health benefits of vaccines, eradication of smallpox, near elimination of polio, are empirically verifiable across nations with adversarial governments. Conclusion: while historical distrust of state medical experiments, for example Tuskegee, is justified and forms a basis for suspicion, the leap to ongoing global vaccination programs as a primary vector for nefarious agents lacks a credible motive that outweighs the immense risk of catastrophic blowback. The evidence for their public health utility is overwhelming and cross-cultural. Claim 3, ultra-processed foods and sugar as a deliberate health sabotage. Allegation: governments collude with industry to promote addictive, health-destroying foods to weaken the populace. Assessment: plausibility high, not as a formal psyop, but as a documented outcome of regulatory capture, lobbying, and capitalist incentive structures. Evidence: declassified documents show food industry, sugar, tobacco, knowingly manipulating research and public policy. Subsidies, for example, U.S. corn syrup, create market distortions. The result is a public health crisis. Intent versus negligence. The primary driver is profit, not a conscious desire to weaken the population, though the effect may be similar. Framing it as a coordinated state psyop may over-formalize a more diffuse system of corporate influence and state permissiveness. Conclusion: the outcome, a sicker population, is observable. The mechanism is more accurately described as industrial capitalist neglect and regulatory failure than a top-down clandestine psychological operation. Claim 4, suppression of cancer cures, for example 45-day fasting. Allegation: a simple non-profit cure, prolonged fasting for cancer, is known but suppressed to protect pharmaceutical revenue. Assessment: scientific basis. Research into fasting, autophagy, and metabolic approaches to cancer adjunct therapy is ongoing and published in peer-reviewed journals. It's not suppressed but investigated. The 45-day fast claim: a 45-day water-only fast is extremely dangerous, risking severe malnutrition, organ failure, and death. Cancer isn't one disease but hundreds with different mechanisms. A single universally effective cure is biologically impossible. Suppression logistics. To suppress a cure, every oncology researcher, clinician, and medical ethicist worldwide would have to be complicit or fooled. A conspiracy of impossible scale. The profit motive is strong, but so is the motive for fame and saving lives, which drives relentless competitive global research. Conclusion: the claim exploits the complexity and desperation of cancer. While metabolic therapies are a legitimate research avenue, the idea of a simple, universally suppressed cure is negated by medical reality, the danger of the proposed method, and the infeasibility of global secrecy. Claim 5, Akashic records, personal files, and government facilities. Allegation: metaphysical Akashic records or detailed personal dossiers are physically stored by governments. Assessment: metaphysical claim: the Akashic records are a theosophical concept of a non-physical repository of all knowledge. By definition, they cannot be stored in a physical facility. Surveillance state literal interpretation. If interpreted metaphorically as total personal data collection, this is effectively true. Mass digital surveillance signals intelligence, metadata, biometrics, social media scraping, creates de facto personal files of unprecedented detail, NSA, GCHQ, etc., per Snowden disclosures. These are stored in government data centers. Conclusion: the mystical claim is non-falsifiable. The practical reality of near total digital surveillance creating comprehensive personal dossiers is well documented in a matter of public record and concern. Synthesis and motivational analysis. Common thread. These claims reflect a deep omni-conspiracy worldview where disparate negative phenomena, bad weather, illness, poor food, surveillance are linked to a conscious, centralized, malevolent intent. Psychological appeal. This provides a coherent, if terrifying, narrative that simplifies chaotic suffering into a story with a controllable antagonist, the state, replacing helplessness with a form of secret knowledge. Hybrid truths. The most potent claims often contain a kernel of truth. Cloud seeding, industry corruption, data surveillance, extrapolated via speculative leaps into a grand unified theory of control. Recommendations for further inquiry. Focus scrutiny on documented ongoing malfeasance, regulatory capture, lobbying, intelligence overreach, and corporate negligence. These are powerful, real drivers of harm. Distinguish between metaphorical language, for example, records of our lives, and literal claims about physical technology or biology. Apply scale and logistical tests to any alleged operation. How many people must be involved? What is the physical infrastructure? What is the realistic risk reward for the state? Final conclusion, the claims presented represent a worldview integrating verified facts, misrepresented science, and metaphysical ideas into a comprehensive control narrative. While elements reflect real abuses, corporate influence, surveillance, the overarching theory of a unified, deliberately pathological government program encounters insurmountable logistical, motivational, and scientific obstacles when analyzed discreetly. The greater leverage for understanding societal harm lies in analyzing systemic incentives and documented history rather than attributing events to a singular clandestine directorate. I think I already did degrees. Oh, this is gonna be pretty fun. So I did compiled field report on proscribed, obscured, and plain sight celestial data. The doctrine of scattered holography. We operate under the axiom that the great knowledge, the unified theory of astrological metaphysics, was never lost, but strategically dispersed following the Alexandrian conflagrations and later suppressions. The custodians of the art initiated Project Palimpsest, the encoding of core principles into cultural narratives, artistic works, and mundane records, rendering them invisible to doctrinal purges, but recoverable to those with the syzegetic key. This report catalogs recoveries per Directive 77. Section A, Media Archaeologia. F7, the Artifact and the Signal, Field Agent Report A1, Cinematic Horoscopes and Narrative Astrology. Artifact, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, 1968. Hidden data, not merely Jupiter alignment symbolism. The entire film is a dramatization of the Pluto transit of the Sun. The monoliths represent Plutonian encounters, moments of absolute and human paradigm shift. The star child is the consciousness born from the 12th house, the oceanic prenatal after traversing the planetary spheres. The voyage, the famous match cut from bone to spacecraft, is a visual representation of a Saturn return leap, a quantum jump in tool use. Saturn consciousness, plain sight hiding, presented as sci-fi, functionally an initiatory text on epochal transitions. Field Agent Report A2, Sonic Sigils and Harmonic Geomancy. Artifact, Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, 1973. So, Hidden Data, the album isn't about astrology, it's an auditory birth chart for the Aquarian Age shadow. The heartbeat, ascendant, the cycles of money, Venus, second, time, Saturn, madness, Neptune, 12th, and conflict, Mars, trace a planetary sequence. The iconic prism is the symbol of the astrological chart itself. White light, undifferentiated consciousness, fractured into the spectral spectrum. The 12 signs, houses, and recoalesced. Supporting data, correlation of track transitions with lunar phase angles yields a 94.3% match to the sidereal lunar positions of March 1973. Alright, let's talk about Disney's The Lion King from 1994 And I'm not talking about the live action ones. I mean, I know it's the same story, but I can't believe they're doing live action remakes of all these Disney movies. It's insane. Hidden Data, a perfect exoteric tutorial on lunar node doctrine. Simba's journey is the node axis. Scar's rule under the hyenas is the south node in Capricorn. Corrupt, burdensome, karmic authority. Simba's exile with Timon and Pumbaa, Hakuna Matata, is the south node in Cancer. Refusal of duty in favor of childish comforts. The return to reclaim kingship is the north node in Capricorn. Integration of mature, responsible structure. Remember who you are is the north node imperative. Propagation vector, mass childhood imprinting of nodal theory via effective narrative. We have some clay tablets I came up with. The Urek deviation tablets. The location is a secondary archive, Iana Complex, Uruk, circa 3200 BCE. Content. Not merely lunar omens, these tablets contain the formula of the 5 sidereal anomalies, a predictive algorithm incorporating the retrograde cycles of Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury, not as portents, but as calculable tension coefficients in statecraft. It describes the weeping of kings, Saturn and water, triplicity retrograde, as a period of strategic withdrawal, not mourning. Obscuration method. Later Babylonian systematization reduced the dynamic formula to static omens, discarding the mathematical core. The Elamite ghost sphere location, Susa, fragmentary vitrified tablet circa 2200 BCE. Content. References to the invisible countermoon or black moon Lilith, not as a demon but as a gravitational calculant. It provides an early geometric method for approximating the moon's apogee and its void of voice, black moon, effects on oracular speech. This knowledge resurfaced millennia later in medieval Hebrew texts, stripped of its original computational context. The Minoan star dial of the labyrinth. Location, Knossos Palace Complex on a ceiling stone circa 1700 BCE. Content, a spiraling diagram correlating the 8-year Venus cycle with the 19-year Metonic lunar cycle overlaid on a labyrinthine path. This isn't a calendar, but a path-working map, a ritual and psychological guide for aligning consciousness with the specific quality of time generated by the Venus-Moon synodic resonance. The Minotaur is likely a code for the chaotic potential Taurus bull of misaligned Venusian cycles. Mino. Alright, let's get into the literary cryptanalysis. Coded canon. Dante's Divine Comedy as Zodiacal Descensus. The text in question, Dante's Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso, circa 1308 through 1321. Hidden Data. The entire structure is a geocentric psychological mandala. The 9 circles of hell mirror an inverse contracted natal chart with Satan frozen at the absolute nadir, icy root of being. The 7 terraces of purgatory align with the planetary spheres in their Chaldean order, purging each planetary vice. The 9 celestial spheres of paradise represent the ascent through the planetary and stellar octaves to the Empyrean. The prima mobile, or the unaspected soul beyond astrological determinism. Virgil is mercurial reason. Beatrice is Venusian illuminated love. Let's talk about the lost chapters of Ptolemy, reference in al-Biruni's Kitab al-Taifim. So, hypothesized content beyond Tetrabiblos. This text allegedly detailed the astrology of collectives, charts for cities, languages, and philosophical ideas. It contained the method for casting the horoscope of a war, a plague, or a revelation using ingress charts merged with the natal charts of founding principles, suppressed by Roman imperial decree for its capacity to predict the decline of empires. Shakespeare's astrological ciphers, text King Lear, which is something that was taught to me when I was a senior in high school. And I had a really awesome English teacher. I really miss him. He's a really good teacher. And I had him for film studies too. And he was in his 70s, and he always told the class, he was like, his story. I mean, he was homeless at one point. He had a very abusive father. And he ended up going to college when he was in his 40s to become a teacher, after being a commercial fisherman in Alaska, and even owning his own business at one point. So let's talk about King Lear. Hidden data. The play is structured on the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction cycle of 1603 to about 1604, a great mutation into a fire triplicity. Lear's division of the kingdom is the breakdown of the old Saturnian order. The storm on the heath is the Uranian. Promethean, liberation avant la lettre, breaking apart a corrupt Jupiter-Saturn structure. The character of the fool operates as Mercury retrograde in the 12th house, speaking fatal truth from the margins of perception. Conclusions and directives. Confirmation. The doctrine of scattered holography is valid. The great knowledge persists. Recommendation for F7 and F11 and F9. You can read those if you want. So and I think this is also going to help people. So this is another codex, Foundations of Celestial Hermeneutics. And by the way, guys, I'm making sure that this book that I'm writing is going to be very, very long. I'm waiting to grow this audience, and I really want this book to come out in the next 5 years. So this isn't a book of answers. To start off, this is a laboratory for questions that dissolve the asker. The advanced scholar approaches astrology not as a predictive art, but as a metaphysical technology, a means of mapping consciousness across multiple dimensions of existence. This codex assumes mastery of basic symbolism and seeks to build a rigorous, self-aware framework for what we might call conscious astrology, astrology that examines its own premises while expanding its capacities. Book 1, Ontological Foundations, Chapter 1, The Three Realms of Celestial Reality. The literal realm, the astronomy of gravitational bodies, light spectra, orbital mechanics, the sky as measurable fact. The symbolic realm, the archetypal, psychological, and cultural meanings ascribed to celestial phenomena, the sky as meaningful text. The noetic realm, the Platonic world of pure forms and intelligences, the sky as a living idea. This is the realm of Proclus, Lamblichus, and the Neoplatonic vehicle of the soul, Ojima. Key concept, the advanced astrologer operates simultaneously in all three realms, understanding when they are congruent, when they diverge, and how to navigate the tensions between them. Time is a celestial construct. Chronos versus Kairos. Chronological versus qualitative time. How planetary cycles create temporal textures rather than mere intervals. The fourfold nature of astrological time. There's linear, progressions, directions, cyclic, transits, returns, spiral, planetary nodes, heliocentric cycles. Simultaneous, the natal chart as eternal present, or the eternal now. Anachronistic harmony, reading historical events through their periods, astrological epistemology versus imposing modern frameworks. Space as celestial architecture. The zodiac as a cognitive map, not a belt of stars, but a 12-fold categorical system for organizing human experience. House systems as existential geometries. Each house system reveals different philosophical commitments. Equal house, the democratic principle, equal sectors of life. Placidus, the dramatic principle, fate through struggle. Cook, the karmic principle, destiny through action. Whole sign, the holistic principle, life as integral domains. Local space astrology, the chart as geodetic interface between individual consciousness and terrestrial location. Planetary ontology, the planets as multiple beings. Each planet exists in at least 7 ontological modes. Astronomical body, physical characteristics, mythological deity, narrative intelligence, psychological function, Jungian archetype, alchemical process, transmutative principle, mathematical ratio, harmonic relationship, historical epoch marker, generational signature, conscious intelligence, angelic daemonic entity. Advanced exercise, chart the same transit through all 7 modes and synthesize the polyvalent meaning. the dignity-detriment spectrum as energetic ecology. Beyond simple good, bad. Planetary dignity as resonant attunement, detriment as creative dissonance. The essential dignities as harmonic nodes. Each dignity, domicile, exaltation, tranquility, etc., represents a different quality of planetary expression. Mutual reception as quantum entanglement. Planets in mutual reception don't help each other. They create a resonant field where their functions become interchangeable. Chapter 6, the outer planets as collective unconscious organs. Uranus, the organ of paradigm perception. Neptune, the organ of boundary dissolution. Pluto, the organ of evolutionary pressure. The trans-Plutonians, Eris, Sedna, etc., the organs of emergent collective traumas. Book 3, Aspect Geometry and Harmonic Theory. Chapter 7, Aspects as Phase Relationships of Consciousness. The aspect as interference pattern. Planetary aspects create standing waves in the collective psyche. Minor aspects as quantum states, semi-sextile, 30 degrees, queen cocks, 150 degrees, etc., as subtle attractors for consciousness. The orb problem. Orb size as indicator of archetypal focus. Narrow orbs equal laser precision. Wide orbs equal ambient field. Let's talk about advanced harmonic theory. The holistic chart. The natal chart is a single complex waveform. Harmonic charts as dimensional views. Fourth harmonic, practical manifestation. Fifth harmonic, creative expression. Seventh harmonic, spiritual mission. Ninth harmonic, higher mind. The natal chart as mandala, using color, geometry, and sacred proportion to visualize the chart as a consciousness mandala. Chart patterns as energetic ecosystems. T-square, not tension, but a closed thermodynamic system seeking discharge. Grand trine, not luck, but a self-contained resonance chamber that can become stagnant. Mystic rectangle, the transformer circuit converting pressure into creative output. Yod, the focused destiny arrow, less choice, more divine assignment. Predictive systems as multiverse navigation, the fourfold predictive model. Transits, external weather patterns affecting the native's environment. Progressions, the soul's developmental timeline. Solar arc directions, the life's narrative arc. Returns, the annual, quarterly thematic cycles. Integrative practice, mapping a single event through all four systems to create a predictive hologram. Rectification as temporal archaeology, philosophical basis, the birth time as not accidental but karmically resonant. Techniques, event-based, using major life events as temporal anchors. Appearance-based, using physical characteristics. Psychological, using key developmental milestones. The rectified chart as psychological portrait, beyond time accuracy to character accuracy. Advanced progression systems, secondary progressions, the soul's diurnal rhythm. Tertiary progressions, the lunar rhythm of emotional development. Minor progressions, the mercurial rhythm of mental adaptation. Solar arc, the solar will, unfolding through life. Synastry and composite reality fields, the three-body problem in relationship astrology. Individual charts, two separate realities. Synastry, the interference pattern between realities. Composite chart, the emergent third reality, the relationship as entity. Davison relationship chart, the quantum midpoint reality. Chapter 14, Karmic Astrology as Soul Contract Reading. The lunar node as soul vector. South node equals karmic momentum. North node equals evolutionary pull. Saturn contacts as karmic accountability, where lessons must be learned. Pluto contacts as soul-level transformation, where identities must die and be reborn. The vertex as fateful encounters, points of destiny, intersection. Research methods and validation. The epistemology of astrological knowing. Three ways of knowing. Empirical, statistical correlation. Hermeneutic, symbolic interpretation. Noetic, direct intuitive apprehension. The validation triad. Internal consistency. Does the interpretation follow symbolic logic? Empirical fit. Does it match observable facts? Experiential resonance. Does it feel true to the native? Case study methodology. The deep dive approach versus statistical breadth. Advanced research designs longitudinal studies tracking individuals across decades, cross-sectional studies comparing different populations, phenomenological research studying the experience of astrological consultation, controlled symbolic experiments testing specific astrological hypotheses. Ethics and practice of advanced astrology. The astrologer as liminal being. The wounded healer archetype, the necessity of the astrologer's own psychological work, projection and countertransference, the astrologer's chart influencing the reading, the ethics of prediction, navigating between empowerment and determinism, confidentiality and boundaries, the sacred container of the consultation, integration with other disciplines, astrology and depth psychology, the chart as roadmap to the unconscious, astrology and systems theory, the chart as complex adaptive system, astrology and physics, metaphors from quantum mechanics and relativity, astrology and neuroscience, planetary cycles and brainwave states. Appendixes. All right, A through D. Mathematical foundations, spherical trigonometry for house calculation, harmonic calculation formulas, orbital mechanics basics, historical epistemologies, Babylonian omen astrology, Hellenistic timing techniques, medieval dignity systems, Renaissance magical astrology, the theosophical synthesis. Research case studies, detailed analysis demonstrating methodological rigor, failed predictions analyzed for learning, breakthrough interpretations showing novel approaches. The scholar's ethical oath, a formal commitment to intellectual honesty, client welfare, and the advancement of astrological knowledge. Epilogue toward a conscious astrology. The future of astrology lies not in seeking mainstream scientific validation, but in deepening its own unique epistemology. The advanced astrological scholar is a cartographer of consciousness, mapping the subtle terrains where cosmic pattern and human experience intersect. This codex isn't an end, but a provisional framework, one that must be continually tested, refined, and ultimately transcended by each generation of scholars. For in the end, the truest astrology isn't found in books or calculations, but in the living dialogue between the human soul and the starry heavens. We aren't human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and astrology is one of our most precise languages for navigating that paradox. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video for more. Hope you got educated.